Welcome to the Child Free Wealth Podcast, hosted by Bree and Dr. J, Certified Financial Planner. Here we discuss life and finances as it relates to being child-free. This podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes only. Please consult your advisor before implementing any ideas heard on this podcast.
So we're going to spend about an hour together. What's the best usage of that time?
I would like to talk about pros and cons of retiring maybe before my house is paid off. I'd like to talk about thinking about when I'm ready to retire as soon as feasible in the context of so much unpredictability in the market right now. So when I get to that point, as soon as is feasible and prudent, talking about a withdrawal strategy. And those, I think, are the most important things to me today.
Okay. So if we can figure out kind of earliest you can retire and how to get the money, you're happy?
I'm happy.
So what would you do in retirement? Kind of what would that look like to you?
I would like to continue to travel a couple times a year. I do that now. And I would like to have more leisure in my life. I'd like to have regular daily exercise. I'd like to have more time to cook meals at home. I'd like to read more books.
Okay. So you wouldn't work at all?
I don't think so.
So I asked that question because a lot of folks, when they retire, it's kind of, they want to know what they want to retire from, but kind of what do they want to retire to is a big question, and kind of like filling your time. And you're saying leisure and travel, and that makes good sense. I mean, do you see yourself getting bored, or it's kind of like, I can do that for the rest of my life?
I don't see myself getting bored. I've been using weekends, and I currently work 4/10s and have 3-day weekends. So I've been intentionally using like 3-day weekends to sort of practice retirement, and really sort of assessing, what do I really enjoy? What makes me feel like truly nurtured and engaged and satisfied at the end of the day? That's what I think I want when I retire to retirement.
What have you found the joy to be?
Exercise every day, eating something that I've cooked myself that is really good, taking a walk, being outside some, spending time with pets, planning for, a couple big trips a year, and just having less that structure, those activities giving my life structure, but being able to sort of do those things every day with freedom rather than have a work schedule.
That's fair. And when you say travel, kind of like, how much are you spending per year on travel? Because like some people say travel to us and it's like, oh, I spend like $5,000 a year. And some people are like 50 grand a year. So it's hard to gauge.
I'm like $7,000 a year.
And in retirement, maybe make it a little more, like 10K if it's nice, like that's fair. Any big like list of like, I want to go certain places?
The one that I know of right now is I'm going to plan next year to go to Italy with 2 friends. And I have a couple things already planned in the States that I'm doing this year or next year. But that's as far as I'm thinking ahead about that.
Nice. And are you going to stay in the house you're at, or kind of like, what's your long-term picture for housing?
I'm going to stay in the house I'm in.
Okay. You enjoy it?
Yes. Yep. And I bought this house. It's a single level. When I bought this house, I thought I could age in place here. And it's been a good spot.
That's fair. So why pay off the house first before retirement?
Because that's one of the things that keeps me up at night, if anything does, about my financial situation, is knowing that most of my paycheck right now goes toward my mortgage. That's the one that feels to me like it should be paid off so that I will feel secure in retirement. But I know that might not be entirely rational. So I wanted to hear your thoughts on it.
And I can go either way. I mean, the mortgage is what, 2.5 or 2.65 rate. So, I mean, that's a pretty good rate. So it's not necessarily a financial debate. But if it is keeping you up at night, then that is something to think about. Why does it keep you up or kind of keep you up?
Because it's a big bill, right? It's the biggest thing that my salary goes toward right now. So it just feels like I need to be really thoughtful about that.
That's fair. And I think if I saw this correctly, you spend like $2,800 a month outside of the mortgage, something like that.
Right.
Does that include the travel?
Yes.
I'm asking because we account for it differently. So that's what I'm just trying to figure out. Monthly bills include the mortgage, about $5,000 a month. Does that sound right?
Yes.
Okay. And if you could, would you retire tomorrow in a couple years? Kind of like, what would be ideal?
Well, it's evolved. Ideal in theory is tomorrow. And I know that it's not smart to retire when our economy is probably headed toward a big correction, a recession. I know that that's probably not smart, but I'm emotionally getting ready closer to something like retiring tomorrow. A decade ago, I would have said 65.
Mm-hmm.
Then I read Die with Zero. And then I started thinking like maybe 55, 58, which was a big adjustment for me, like cognitively and emotionally. And then recently I read your book and I thought, well, maybe I should try to move it even closer to now. Right now I'm 48. I thought, well, maybe I should get closer to tomorrow, or maybe I should shoot for that 55.
Yeah, and just to be transparent, I don't literally mean tomorrow. We got a plan, we got some steps in between, but we have to tell everybody that because like I'm always worried they're like, well, you said I could and I gave my I'm like, hold up, like have you thought about at all like a phased retirement, maybe cutting your work in half first?
I have. I will probably do that. I've started to put things in place to maybe go to a 0.8 full-time equivalent as soon as this fall.
Okay.
And then maybe back it off from there.
Why 0.8?
Because of my job responsibilities, there is 20% of my job that would be easy to give up.
Mm-hmm.
And I would still have full benefits, including health insurance at my job at a 0.8 or 0.7, actually. But 20% of my job is really easy to give up logistically and emotionally.
And 0.7 is the lowest you can go without getting benefits taken away?
Correct.
Okay. Why 0.8 versus 0.7? Now I'm negotiating here, like.
Just the ease of it. My job is literally in 3 segments. 20% of it, of what I do, would be easy, logistically and emotionally to give up. And then other 2 pieces are really complex and are going to take some time for me to delegate or wind down. And they would be bigger chunks. 40% kind of goes together. And same for that other chunk of my work.
Hey, Child Free Wealth listeners, it's Bree. I highly encourage you to schedule a Child Free Wealth checkup. During this time, you're going to get a couple of forms to fill out that include your life and financial plan. We'll review them, and then we're going to have a meeting and go through them with you. We're going to give you some advice and things to work on and talk through things to make your finances simpler so your life can be amazing. You can schedule yours by going to our website, childfreewealth.com, and clicking the Schedule Now button.
That's fair, but if you retire, it's all got to go away. Because let me see here. If you're doing, so you'd work 3 days a week is what you're hoping, probably? Something like that?
Yes.
Which isn't exactly 0.8, but close enough. And would you end up like kind of bunching those together so now we get like 4-day weekends essentially?
Yes. Or I might do Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
Okay.
Or something like that.
The other one I've had some folks explore is like doing like 2 weeks on, 1 week off. That way they can travel more. Have you thought of that?
No, I hadn't.
Let me use a 3/4 example just because my math works well.
Yeah.
For people working 40 hours a week, healthcare is cool because healthcare, you can often like make something work and still get benefits. Yeah. But what I've had folks do is if they do 3/4, they work 3 weeks, take 1 week off, but then you back them up against each other. So you get 2 weeks off every 3 weeks on, 2 weeks off, 3 weeks on, 3 weeks on, 2 weeks off. So you get these big chunks you can travel.
That is brilliant. Yeah, that had not occurred to me yet. Thank you.
I mean, does that get you the quality of life you're looking for? I'm trying to optimize for travel and fun and, like getting 2 weeks off every 6 weeks is, and don't forget you got PTO and like holidays and stuff like that, but that's not a bad life.
Yeah. It would be a nice transition toward retirement.
Mm-hmm.
I like that idea a lot.
So when's the earliest you could do that?
This fall.
Because of you or because of work?
Because of work.
Okay. Now, if you got hit by the proverbial bus or had a heart attack, they would figure out how to work around you tomorrow, correct?
Yes, they would.
So why isn't your time worth it to do it earlier?
Hey, Child Free Wealth listeners, it's Bree. If you haven't already signed up for our newsletter, be sure to get on it, where each week we send out information regarding what's going on in the world of child-free life and finances. You can sign up by finding the link in our description.
Because I still get a lot of meaning from my work, and my work has been really important to me, and I want a good ending.
That's fair.
It's important to me to not just vanish on them unless I get hit by a bus.
Well, and I call this out because, unfortunately, actually, let me ask one question before I go there. Do you have a lot of PTO signed up or time saved up or time off?
No, I use it.
Okay, good. The thing I always worry about is a lot of child-free folks are like, oh, well, I mean, work's really important. I can't cut out. But I'm like, well, if you had something else, like kids or something in your life, you might be forced to cut it out and you'd still be okay.
Yes.
So like the medical example, other things, there are things. But so we want to close the chapter of the book before we go to a new chapter. Is that fair?
Fair.
So if we can do that in the fall this year, you'd be happy.
Yes. That would feel like meaningful stuff.
Good. And if we're doing kind of 3 weeks on, 2 weeks off, something like that, how long would you want to do that? Notice I shifted the way we're looking at it now. We're going to get to retirement completely, but let's start with that.
Let's say a year.
Why a year?
When I think about in my life going through changes, it's about the 7 or 8 month mark where it feels like I've hit my stride, where it feels like my new normal. And then I would think I would have the space emotionally and cognitively to think about what the next step was and put it into place by month 12.
Okay. And you'd be okay leaving work at that point without, it would be nice and clean. We're good with that.
We say that again, my Roomba started.
So if we said, all right, we did a year at kind of 3/4, 80%, whatever it is, and then kind of went off into the sunset, that would be an okay ending to work?
Yes.
Okay. Would you prefer that or just this fall, forget it, I'm out, I'm going to call it a day?
I'd prefer the first one.
Okay. Why?
My house isn't paid off.
If I can get you past the financial.
Okay. Yeah, because I want to thoughtfully wind down my job and adjust to it, adjust to giving it up. It's been an important part of my life, and I want to do it well. I want to do it planfully.
That's fair. And really what I'm testing is, are you doing it for yourself or are you doing it for like finances? Like those are two different answers. But you started with the numbers, but if money did not matter, you would probably say, I'm going to do 1 year of this, maybe a little bit more than that, and then go on my retirement path.
Exactly right.
Okay. So that would put you, if we did this right, so the end of this year, we cut back. So kind of like end of 2026, you'd be fully retired.
Right.
How does that feel?
Kind of scary, kind of exciting.
Why scary?
Change is a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
And it always gives me pause, even though it's also exhilarating.
And what's the biggest excitement about it?
Having control over my time and my energy.
But you'd really be you're gaining part of that in fall of 2025. I got to think about which year we're in, I keep losing track, but you'd be gaining some of that there and then gaining full control kind of end of 2026.
Yes.
Awesome. Now, do you care how much money you leave to the next generation?
No.
Okay. So if you die with your last check in your hand, we don't end up on the streets, but we end up using up our money on the way out. We're good with that.
Perfect.
Okay. So let me grab my screen for a second here. We'll play with some numbers. So here's what I've got. I've got your total net worth about 1.3 million. Does that sound about right?
Yep.
And now keep in mind, that's with the market being down considerably over the past 4 or 5 days.
Yeah, I noticed that.
So this is part of one of those tests. Like, if these numbers work now when the market's having issues, we're probably in a good place other times. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So I've got about $130,000, a little more than that, on the loan left. What I've built in here, just so we'll walk through, I've got about 2,000 expenses because I've got the travel somewhere else. So it works out to about the same. I have right now kind of you working full time through almost the end of the year and then doing kind of little less work for a year. And then in retirement, got a couple things. So here's your vacation, 10,000 a year. I want a little more than what you did. Come on. Got to travel a little bit. We have built in long-term care. We'll come back, talk about that. About $2,000 of expenses on top of the house. Does that look about right? Because we took...
Yes, it does.
Okay, we're close. So right now, if you retire at the end of this year, you end up dying with about $14 million.
I don't like that.
I joke about it, but it's like a $14 million problem. It doesn't sound right to be a problem, but $14 million. So what this is 1,000 simulations market. It's better than ever, worse than ever. And it's saying you die with a whole bunch of money. And that assumes you stop working into this, cut back into this year, stop working into next year.
Okay.
How does that feel?
I do not want to die with that much money.
That's fair.
So I either need to start working toward a much fatter retirement. Yeah. I mean, there's also a piece of me. I've been such a saver for most of my life, even not all of my adulthood. Even as a kid, I was a saver. Part of me, when I see that, is like, yes. But I'm also trying to have a different relationship with my money since reading your book and I Was Zero.
Yeah. And by the way, it's really hard to shift your mindset from saving to spending. Let's just be transparent.
Oh.
Like, I joke about the blueberries, buying the frozen blueberries because they're $1 cheaper than the fresh. Like you're fine. And by the way, I already upped your travel budget, so maybe we double it again. But the truth is, and this is what I want you to look at this, is going, your plan works.
Okay.
Pull it apart because I'm sure you're going to ask some questions. So what we've done, and you'll get access to the system after so you can play with it and mess with it. It thinks in years, so whether you cut out an extra month different, who cares? We've got about $70K a year in expenses and about $10K in travel. Now, keep in mind, these are all adjusted for inflation. Your travel budget's going up. This is your car you're buying, a little bit of home improvements. That's all in here. All right. I always like looking at your total net worth. And this is your brokerage account. These are your retirement accounts. This is your house. It has right now you paying off the mortgage 4 or 5 years from now if we do the standard. We can have a separate discussion on paying it off or not in advance. That we'll get there. But what you'll see is if you look at it, the number just keeps going up. So the reason for that is, on average, your portfolio, and now, by the way, this year is a good example of average is not always exact. Like we were up a bunch in February, down a bunch like April, like it is what it is. But your portfolio is returning about $100,000 a year to start and then going up. Well, if your spending between these two is like, 85,000, 80,000, something like that. The bottom line is you're spending less than you're making off your investments. And if you look at this at some point, probably right about here, you're making just as much money off your investments as you did at your job.
Yes. And at that point, my house is paid off for sure.
Yeah.
That was one sentence in your most recent book that was a huge aha for me when you talked about this. Like, your portfolio is making more than you are going to work. That's stupid.
It's called tipping point. I'm making more money than work. And at some point, and you're already there, every dollar you earn is going to a goal you don't care about, which is your estate.
Yes.
How's that feel overall?
Amazing.
You've done great. Let's be honest with it.
I've worked hard to save money, and yeah, I want to enjoy it. I want to enjoy my money while I'm still vital and healthy and all of that. I want to, live a great life with all that cash I stockpiled away.
Yep. I tested it before, but I want to test it again. So now you see the numbers. Do you still want to work the extra year?
Yes.
That's fine. So the way I say it with people is if you'll work for free, keep doing it. If you enjoy the work, you want to, have that nice chapter, you want to do that. Awesome. We'll take the extra money. We'll invest it. We'll do appropriate things with it. But now you're really actually not doing it for the money.
Yes. I'm doing it for my emotional need of ending my work life well and giving myself a cushion to adjust emotionally, cognitively to not having work in my life, because it's been a huge way that I've spent my time and energy.
Now, let me challenge you. People that have done the kind of kickback routine, kind of cutting back work, occasionally when they get to the end of that kind of like second year in your case, they don't stop. They're like, well, I mean, this is good. I'm liking my weeks off. Is that okay with you?
I can't be sure. I want to say no, that I want to say I should just make a plan and then implement it, because that's the smart thing to do. And I also know that when I get to that year mark, that I may have reluctance.
Yeah. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get your mindset around this and say, all right, either when I get to that second year from now, like that's a drop dead date by, January of 2027, I'm out. Or is it more like, well, let's see what happens? The challenge with let's see what happens is you need to be able to have that conversation with yourself. Like, I'm doing this because I enjoy it, not about the money. If there's any thought, like I'm going to keep doing this because I'm making money, I'm going to keep pointing back to that $14 million and be like, you're doing it for the wrong reasons.
Yes. I like that concept too. So I can imagine like staying 6 more months to work for the nicest Mercedes Sprinter van that I can imagine.
Yeah, I have some people that 100% work for vacation. So like I work 50% time and every dollar goes towards blank. And I have somebody that 100% of her time, she was working half time, but 100% of her money goes towards charity. That's fine too. But the money has to have a purpose then, more versus mindlessly saving, because you've been good at saving and like we have to break that habit essentially.
Yes. And yes, my mind is willing to break the habit. And I know that habits are hard to break.
Everybody says, yeah, they're willing. And then I'll look at their expenses and I'm like, yay, you increased it by like $500. Like, like we didn't move the needle. I mean, this is where I joke, but it's true. You start traveling, at least business class or first class, you start enjoying that extra glass of wine, if that's your thing or whatever it is, just a little bit. That way you get used to spending just a little bit more.
Yeah.
So would you really want to get a Sprinter van and travel the world or what?
Yeah, I do. I never want to sell my house. I don't think. I think I always want to keep my home base. But yeah, I would love to do some Sprinter van trips just in the States.
Great. Maybe that second year you're working at the 0.8 goes to the Sprinter van.
Mm-hmm.
How does that feel?
Great.
Good.
About the logistics of that. So I'm working for, let's say that second year at a 0.8, I'm working for the Sprinter van. Am I withdrawing from my nest egg at that point?
It depends. So I'm just going to look at your accounts. The first thing is there's a couple of different moves I want to make. One, you've got a 457B at work. At least it looks like you do. Does that ring a bell? I want you to start maxing that out.
All right.
That money you get access to the day you quit your job. So that's the easiest money to get access to. You have, it looks like most everything else is tied up in the 403B, 401k. We got a bunch of accounts all over the place. But if you're spending like $60K a year, you're bringing in like 140.
Extra money goes toward the mortgage or toward savings accounts for vacation or emergency fund or, replace the roof fund.
Okay. How much extra are you putting at the mortgage?
$500 a month, every month, and about $4,000 in lump sums when I get my bonus. I put it toward the.
Okay. So what if you took, and rather than saving towards, you've got the stuff you're going to mortgage, stuff going to the other accounts. What if you put a little more of that aside towards either the Sprinter van or next year's expenses? Like, it doesn't matter. But where you had a little more cash hanging around to be that adjustment year in between. How would that feel?
Good. So that by the time I hit that 1 year mark, I have a year's expenses in cash.
Yep. I like for retirees to have about a year's expenses in cash plus an emergency fund. That way, like, you're not at the whims of the market. And we can then plan around taxes. So like what money you take out and when is going to change part of your plan. And we can now look at it and say, all right, usually we do it end of the year because that's when we're doing the planning for the end of the year taxes. Hey, I need another $50,000 for expenses for next year. We can sell the appropriate things. We can take the money out and we don't have to worry about the market's down or up or, timing things because you've got that cash cushion for next year's expenses set aside. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So now the next problem you're going to have is how do I get access to my retirement funds? Because I'm not going to be 59 and a half.
Nope.
So you're going to end up doing, it's part of a 72T election, which is a series of equal periodic payments. Whew, way too many words. The way it works is, and this one, by the way, going to want to work with a financial planner, CPA to work on how to do this math exactly. But we figure out between the time you retire, which would be 50 and 59 and a half, how much you want to take out each year. And the way it works is it has to be exactly the same amount each year. So let's say it's $50,000 a year or 60 because that's what your expenses are. You would take out that amount each year going forward. The result would be you would not pay that 10% penalty. You would have to pay income tax on what you take out, but you wouldn't have to pay the penalty.
Okay. So I would pay income tax even if I was withdrawing from a Roth.
Well, we're gonna use your Roth last. We're gonna be using your traditional first. So the Roth, the longer we can keep it in there, growing tax-free is the better.
Right. Okay.
Now, whether you pay off the mortgage or not, your total monthly expenses, let's say they're $5,000 a month. If you don't have the mortgage, sure, that's going to lower your monthly amount, but it works out to about the same because your mortgage rate is so low that even just money in a savings account will beat it right now. I'm not going to lose sleep on if you either A, want to pay off your house or B, don't. Both work, but which one's better for you?
As long as I can manage like my anxiety about it, it is better to not pay it off.
Right. But if it's going to cause you anxiety, I'm going to pay it off. Like, that's the reality check of this. This is what makes sense financially versus what makes sense emotionally. They have no connection. I mean, almost none. If we had to pay that off, that 134, couple options. We could take some money out of the retirement accounts. I don't like that from a tax purpose. If you wanted to work one more year at 0.8, you probably could pay it off by that.
Right.
Do you like that option or not?
That would be my second choice. My first choice is to manage my anxiety. And then my second choice would be to work another year, whatever, to pay it off. Yeah.
I mean, let's be real. A year is not going to, it's not going to make a big difference either way. And maybe it's a 0.6 at that point, or I don't know, but, or if it's 0.7, then we keep the health insurance even better. The challenge you are going to have is changing your money mindset in general. You know, like you talked about saving versus spending and kind of, you know, that is going to be one of those that the unfortunate fact is you've spent 40 plus years making that happen and it's not going to get undone overnight. You know that.
I know that. I feel that. I live that.
Because one of the problems I watch out for with retirees is that they start they're like, I want to retire, I want to do all this. And then the day after their paycheck goes away, they start living on like ramen noodles because they're like, oh, I have no paycheck anymore, so I can't afford anything. Could you see yourself doing that?
No, but 5 years ago, yes. But I have really worked hard to adjust my mindset after I read Debt with Zero.
Good.
And there's still, there's still pieces of that habit in me that I'm still working to take apart.
That's fair. And by the way, that's one of those things we're working with a third person, or second person, somebody to help you out does help, kind of call it out. I think the other trick, and this is probably what's going to help you, is we set up your investments in your retirement accounts so that you get a monthly paycheck or weekly paycheck even, where each month $5,000 gets deposited into your checking. It makes you feel like you still have a paycheck, and it might help you get around the anxiety with the house and the anxiety around spending, because each month I get a new check.
Yes.
How does that feel?
Great.
Would it help?
That would help.
So the other option, I'm not saying to do this one, but I just want you to think it out, is if you truly want that paycheck, that is the job of annuities. So they talked about it in Die with Zero, is you can do an annuity, get a set paycheck. There's only one annuity that I recommend. That annuity includes a long-term care benefit, which is a good thing. On the finance, like the numbers side, I think you do better in the market. But on the emotional, like I have money to spend and I get a new check each month, it does tend to help. But it depends on kind of where your mindset is.
I can feel my frugality crawling up and saying, no, you can manage your anxiety about not having a paycheck because of the way that pencils out financially. But I will continue to think about it.
Yeah. So interesting. I usually end up recommending the annuity to the people that are a little more frugal. And the reason is I can then force them to spend the money each month. You get a new check each month, like, spend it all and we'll get a new one the next month.
I'll think about it. I may need to end up there.
Yeah. So what's your plan for long-term care?
I will age in place. Who knows what's going to happen to our healthcare system in the next decades as the boomers change things. So there may be options available to me that don't exist now. But ultimately, I do not plan on being in a facility. I will exit, either because I live in Oregon. I may have the opportunity to use the death with dignity law here, or I may go to Switzerland and take that exit.
Yep, I'm cool with that. I think the challenge I tell everybody, it's just kind of a reality check, is you can't change your mind. This is like either we build it into the plan or we don't. I'm with you. I like the death with dignity concepts, but our society is not caught up to it. Any family history of dementia, Alzheimer's, things like that?
In very advanced age. My family tends to live a long time. If any of us get that many birthdays, we end up with dementia. I know that changes things for how people use the law, but I've thought about that. I know what I would do.
I tried figuring out a way to do this for one of my colleagues. He had a client who, her family actually has all early onset Alzheimer's, which is just tough. And she was like, yep, I'm going to go to Switzerland. I'm going to do the thing. But once you're in the healthcare system in the US, getting you out to go to Switzerland, I couldn't figure out a legal way to do it. Her sister was willing to take her, not an issue, but how do you do it without her sister getting arrested? Becomes an issue. So I just want you to keep that in mind. And the result we ended up with for her was that the trigger for her would be, hey, you may have to go into a nursing home, she needs to be conscious enough at that point to then say, nope, I'm going the other direction, which is a little hard to plan around. I'm just being transparent on that.
Absolutely.
I mean, I'm good with it. It's a potential hole in your plan, but I'm good with where you're going. But I just got to make sure to warn you kind of the ups and downs.
Yes, I have appreciation for those caveats. Worst case scenario, right? If I don't spend enough money, there will be money left over to spend in end of life care.
Possibly, but I'm going to try to help you spend your money across your life so there isn't money left over.
Yes.
Because if you in the back of your head are like, well, I might have this cushion anyway. I'm like, no. We've decided one way or the other. Because right now, if you go into care in your 90s, it's going to be like $1 million a year. Yeah, it's crazy. I'm going to be saying, okay, how do you give away your money to charity, other things, enjoy it, travel, whatever else it is. But if you're going down that path, then you're not going to have it left over for long-term care.
Exactly.
Does that make sense?
It does. It does.
Do you have a plan for who's going to take care of you when you're older, making the decisions, kind of the power of attorney?
I do.
And do you have it in writing?
Oh, yes. My person and I revisit that plan annually.
Good. I'm just checking through these things, and it becomes one of those challenges, especially around the medical stuff. But you're aware of kind of the healthcare system challenges around that. So good. The bottom line is your choices are: do I really care about paying off the house or not before I retire? And do I retire in 18 months or another year after that?
Mm-hmm.
How's that feel?
Liberating, exciting, and just a little bit scary.
If it wasn't scary, then we didn't do it right. This is like, hey, I'm going to do something different than everybody else in the world. One of the challenges to think about is probably, 6 to 12 months before you retire, is working through the mental model and mindset stuff around, is it okay to retire? Am I okay with it? Am I okay spending money instead of saving money? You're already very aware of it, so I'm very happy with that. But you've probably got another freak out moment or two coming in between now and the actual retirement. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah. I anticipate that is.
On your reading list, do you have the purpose code on the list yet?
No, I'll put it.
That one's got to get on your list. It's interesting. Dr. Jordan Grummett, he's actually a hospice doc, and he started looking at kind of like, what's the purpose to life? And the bottom line is having like a big hairy goal and making it about work is not it. That's definitely it. But the next question you get to start thinking about is kind of like, what impact do you want to make on the way out? The question I often ask folks, and I'm not going to ask you this right now because it's a little deep for this minute, is what does the second line of your obituary say? So the first line is like, Jay died at this age, blah, blah, blah. The second line is normally like, father of three, leaves behind Jack, Joe, and John. That's not us. So the question becomes, what is that? What Dr. Grummett would say, kind of lowercase p purpose. What gets you up each morning? And you had a bunch of stuff there, but that's going to be one of those challenges to get your mind around, because the actual research around retiring is not nice, because it's like you lose your sense of identity and, what you've always done. And if you don't have something to replace that with, the happiness factor is not great. Now, you sound like you have a good idea around it, but that's going to be the biggest work over the next 2 years.
Agreed.
In the meantime, you're going to max out that 457 because that's going to be the one you get access to, because that also will be probably your first year expenses after retirement. If we do this right, you're actually not touching your retirement funds until 51, 52, which it gives them more time to grow. And we don't have to take those payments as soon. The one downside of those payments is you must take them every year. If we can use the 457, we can use the cash set aside, we end up in a good place.
And how should the 457 be invested? Should it be a mix of bonds and equity, or what?
I match a lot of what you're currently doing. So you've got a lot. You said you've got your investments. You feel pretty comfortable about it.
Yep.
The things I've been watching out for, that you're in a good place. I kind of want to keep about 20% international to keep away from U.S. weirdness, which, let's be real, that's where we're at right now. You're in a good place there. Kind of the same. You'll probably end up with a target date fund, the same as your other investments. So that's not a big deal. I would challenge you on your investments. I was looking at this earlier. In your IRAs, you have VTSAX, which is the mutual fund version. I tend to recommend the ETF version. It's a little less fees, and it's a little better on the tax side. Yeah, Vanguard, you can actually call them up. They'll just magically turn it into VTI so that, it's not a big deal. Let's be real, it's not a huge change either way.
Okay.
What you've got right now is not broken. It's just small optimizations. And then once you retire, we're going to want to have some conversations about doing like Roth conversions, some of the other things. There's some other fun tactics you can use that might save you taxes, but they're not really useful right now when the tax law is scheduled to change at the end of the year. Like I can't make a guess what tax is going to look like 2 years from now, realistically.
Of course not.
But the 457, I'm trying to pull up your 401k. Or you have 450. You have the 457, the 401a, and the 403b. You have all three.
Yes.
Yeah, if you copy what's in your 403b, you're probably in a good place. I'm not worried about getting every penny out of that 457. What the bonus is if we put it in, we're saving on taxes. You don't get taxed this year, you get taxed when it comes out. Well, when it comes out, you'll be retired, so your tax bill for the overall year will be very low. What's going to actually happen is you'll need about $60K a year, so that'll technically be your income for the year. If your income per year is $60K, your tax bill will be very low, and you'll qualify for ACA credits, so your healthcare will get a discount too.
Awesome.
I like, and just kind of keep this in your mind, I like starting a year fresh as retired because then my taxes don't get messed up. So like if you get to the end of 2026 and you want to retire, in October or November, fine. That's better than retiring in March, because March now we have the taxes from the couple salary. It may or may not help. It just makes everything cleaner to just start a year. And there's also some kind of that new year, new you type stuff. Hey, let me go live this new year retired.
Yeah.
How you feeling? So I've given you the answers to pretty much everything you asked, and probably a little different answer than you expected, but how you feeling?
I feel good. It feels believably more attainable to move toward this soon, even as the U.S. economy is doing the weird thing or the expected in unpredictability that the market does. Yeah, it feels good.
Good. That's fair. You'll get a report after this, so just check up report. It'll have some more things to tweak. Like, for example, I didn't see you have umbrella insurance. In general, you want to have umbrella insurance to protect you a little bit, slips, falls. In general, I try to go for about $1 million coverage, and it'll probably cost you $300-400 a year. Not a big deal. The 457 will be in there, a few of those things. So you'll see like some small things to tweak, but you've done great. It's just a matter of optimizing and getting your mindset around, wow, I could actually do this.
Hey listeners, like what you're hearing? Don't miss a thing. Sign up for the Child Free Wealth newsletter for weekly tips, tools, and podcast updates. Head to childfreewealth.com/newsletter to get on the list.
Exactly. It makes me feel good to hear you say that it's mostly a solid plan and that there are things for me to tweak. I love a to-do list, Dr. J. I love it.
Yeah, there's always things you can tweak, but it becomes kind of diminishing returns. Things like the umbrella insurance, good stuff just to protect you. Not a big deal to do. I'm not seeing any like giant red flags in what you're doing, which means you're doing pretty good. And all the numbers we just talked about worked with the market being down, whatever it is, almost 10% over the past week. That's kind of a stress test to make sure you're in the right place.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Any other questions you have?
Will you talk to me about how people might use your service episodically like this? Or if I should consider working with a financial advisor of another kind?
Yep. A couple things. It sounds like you've got a good direction. The one thing I do worry about with folks in this period is kind of the shifting their mindsets around stuff. So we usually work with clients, we meet with on a monthly basis. And if I were meeting with you, the number one thing I'd be working on is how to shift your mindset so you're ready to retire, which sounds like you're doing some of that on your own. If that's one of those areas you need help, great. The financial stuff to me is probably the easier stuff for you. Once you get close to retirement, you're going to want to reach out to us or someone else and work on a tax plan. Now, being transparent, that's all slated to change in December. So like, I can't create one right now without knowing what that's going to look like. You're probably at a point where, I don't know, beginning of next year, if you wanted to reach out and work with a planner for 6 to 12 months and kind of work on the taxes, the mindset, the other stuff, that would be a good place for it. The actual finances of this are relatively simple, so I'm not too worried about it. And you've got a pretty good awareness of where you're going. If you want, we do it, this is what we completely is just called a checkup. We do offer that you can do a recheck. So, you can come back once a year and say, hey, how am I doing? That's probably going to be of diminishing returns to an extent, just because you're doing well, but it's more that mindset and tax stuff that's going to be the next issue. But you probably got a year of just kind of like, keep doing what you're doing, make those couple tweaks, and then you could use a little bit of help. Does that make sense?
Yes.
As much as I'd love to have you as a client tomorrow, like, I'm not going to sell you when that's not what you need.
Right. Okay.
Did that answer your question? Or I hear a pause in there.
It did answer my question. And yeah, I was just encoding what you said.
In general, my advice to everybody is if you're going to work with a financial planner, make sure you ask them how your plan is different because you're child free. Most of the time, the answers are not going to be good. My favorite is, oh, well, you'll change your mind. I'm like, listen, that is not happening. Or they'll say it's not different or things like that. You're following the standard kind of child-free, die with zero approach. The systems have trouble with that. So I showed you, you're dying with 14 million and I'm going, okay, how can we tweak this so that you have about a 50-50 chance of running out of money, which is going to get to a different place. We specifically try to help folks out with the child-free stuff. If you end up working with somebody else, just got to ask those questions.
Exactly. Yes.
Other questions?
None spring to mind.
Okay. Keep up the good work. I mean, you should be proud of what you've done.
Thank you.
And I would start having those conversations with work so FYI, this is what I'm doing. Just be aware. I've had a few folks where their job, for some reason, tries to work hard to convince them to stay. Don't be surprised you get kind of that full court press of well, but you're young. You could do more. And you're nope, I'm out. It becomes one of those challenges.
Yep. I had a soft conversation with one of my bosses a couple months ago. And yeah, I got a little pushback, but I also noticed that I felt a lot different after I said it out loud to him. This is happening. And then, I don't know, I felt more grounded about it. Oh my gosh, I'm making this real.
Yeah.
So you're right. I need to have more of those conversations with my people and stick to the drop dead date.
And be aware that tends to be a little guilt around this for some folks. Can I really do this? And they're struggling. You're going to just have to, just a little mindfulness around that. And I'm amazed how people go, there's no way you could do that. You can't. There's no way. And I'm like, guess what? My money, my plan, I can't. You're breaking society's rule. And don't be surprised if it pushes back.
Exactly. Yeah. Thank you for that. For all of this. Thank you very much.
Glad. I hope it was useful. And then you'll get this report in a day or two. Actually, probably by the end of the week because we got a few things going. And then if you have questions, you can always reach out and let me know.
Thank you, Dr. J.
All right. Have a great day.
If you enjoyed the show, please consider leaving a rating or review. We'd love to keep the conversation going. Please let us know your thoughts wherever comments are available or email us at media@childfreewealth.com. To stay up to date, find and follow Child Free Wealth on social media. If you're interested in working with us, learn more by visiting our website, childfreewealth.com. We'll see you next time.